Well, welcome to the Move the Stairs, episode 81. We're recording on Monday, April 24th, 2023. And we're glad you're joining us for today's exciting conversation.
You know, today, Mitch, we're going to be joined by Linne, who we met in March at NoCo, the Hemp Expo in the Colorado Springs. And it was just a fabulous meeting. And like so many business owners, Joe wears so many hats in the hemp world. And when he's not filling orders, he's working on logistics, or he's brainstorming ways to keep his companies top of mind with his customers. And he works with a number of different brands. He works with Hemp Brand Builders and is the co-founder of the Hoosier Hempster Dispensary in Indiana. He also produces Earthmost brands, and we are going to talk to him more in just a minute.
That's right, Diane. On our Move the Stairs podcast today, we're going to speak with Joe along the lines of customer loyalty, you know, how he's working to attract new customers and maintain his current customers, all while keeping the many products that he's working with all of these different brands on the market.
He's busy. And building media relations is, of course, very important, which is why we're so excited to talk to Joe about how he represents different hemp brands within that Hemp Brand Builders family to the media.
And, you know, when you're wearing so many different hats, blind spots can really open up, leaving your brand vulnerable. So we're going to get expert insight from Joe on how he works to protect the brands that he's building, maintaining their resiliency. And we know how important that is. Oh, and I'm going to keep going here. So sorry about that. So let's get started. Holy moly. It's Monday morning. You have to bear with us here. Joe, thanks so much for joining us on the Move the Stairs podcast. First of all, just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, first of all, it's a pleasure being here today. It was a pleasure meeting you all at the NoCo Hemp Expo. A little background about myself. I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years. I've been in the real estate industry, insurance industry, and since 2019, my wife and I have been heavily involved and invested into the hemp industry. And we started off in 2019 in Indiana. Was the first year for hemp to be grown, and we were one of the first farmers in Indiana to be able to bring that back to market. And it was just a great time. We learned a ton. But then we since shifted our focus more over to the retail, wholesale, and distribution of quality hemp and CBD products, whether it be things from tinctures to gummies to different products and proteins, oil, and a nutritional aspect of the hemp industry. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the plant. And we're just super enthusiastic and excited about bringing that to market in different ways.
Totally agree. I mean, it sounds like, you've had experience in a number of different verticals, Joe. So my question for you, we'll just kind of start right off on the podcast here, as you're working to develop customer loyalty. You know, how are you doing it? How are you standing out amongst others in the crowd in any of the facets that you're working with currently?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, we've tried to find our niche and just bringing unique products to market and to bring quality products to market. So just keeping up with all the industry standards within, you know, having full panel COAs whenever you're bringing a CBD product to market, illustrating the mycotoxin levels, the heavy metal levels, the pesticide, herbicide levels. So those quality products bringing to market there, and really just those unique products too. So we've got a lot of different unique products. You know, everybody knows whenever you have CBD products, you know, there's a lot of tinctures and gummies. So we're like, hey, how can we stand out a little bit more? So a product that, for example, that we're rolling out right now is our hemp burger, or I should say our a better burger that's a hybrid burger. So it's going to have hemp protein fortified in there with beef, and then it's also going to have fiber in there as well. So for every third pound patty, you're going to have 30 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber. So it's just going to be packed full of the protein and fiber that people are wanting to have in that quality and that they're looking for. So we're excited about that. So bringing those unique products, but then also quality products to market is really what we're trying to focus on.
Yeah, Joe, you and I, when we talked at NoCo, we were saying that you say the word hemp, and some people immediately think, well, CBD. Others may think of construction products,
Yes.
fabrics. There's a whole host of things, right?
Mhm.
So at Hemp Brand Builders, and you assist with that Earth Most Better Burger, which we tried at NoCo. They're very tasty.
Mm.
So you kind of touched on this, but delve into it a little further. Of all the different ways you could have gone, why and how did you venture into hemp as a food source?
Yeah, great question. So we, like many others, went the route of trying to market and go to market with cannabinoid products, whether it be CBD or THC products. And with the background of our CEO, his name's David King, he's been a true mentor for us in this hemp brand builders and Earthmost arena because he's got 30 years of sales and marketing experience in the retail food category. So selling to Aldi and Kroger and Walmart, Costco's, Kroger's of the world they're not really up to speed with CBD products per se. So you go into those stores, for example, if you go into Kroger, they may have some topicals tucked away back there in the pharmacy. So as we're going through talking to all these buyers for these bigger chains, we realized that, hey, we need to shift our focus a little bit more. And hemp is more than just cannabinoids. So we started digging into the nutritional side of things with proteins and the omega-3 and omega-6 oils and things of that nature that is more familiar with these retail buyers and actually even our clients in general.
I love that B2B strategy that you did because you met them where they were and then took them to the next level as far as education. And that's really cool. In the B2C strategy, I'm really interested in what you're doing to build customer loyalty for your burgers as you're getting them out there and people are seeing them and starting to buy them.
Yeah, it's just going to be about educating. We're going to have to educate the consumer on what our products are. So a lot of people, when we say that we've got hemp in our burger, they think it's going to be a vegetarian or a vegan burger. Where in reality, we're bringing a hybrid burger. So we're meeting people in a middle market, I guess you could say. It's not totally carnivore where it's beef. It's not totally vegan where it's just like all plant-based, but we're going to mix something in between. We're excited about doing that educational piece because it's something new to us, and I think it's a little bit new to the market. And educating, like you said, the direct consumer, but then we also have to build our marketing strategy when we're rolling out to the big box stores and the messaging to the buyers and ultimately the decision makers that are going to bring those into those stores.
That's great.
So, Joe, you may or may not know, but at M&T Communications, we're all former journalists, and we use that experience to help prepare clients to take advantage of every media opportunity that comes their way by positioning them as industry leaders and experts who can give really fantastic interviews. And you're doing a great job, by the way. We call this insider media relations, and it's our second pillar of brand protection PR.
Yeah. So, Joe, talk about the power of hemp CBD brands reaching out to the media and sharing their story to kind of help their business grow. You talked about education just a moment ago, so it sounds like you're already pretty active in doing that.
Yeah, we, ever since the beginning, being in the hemp industry, it's just been an education piece, educating the consumers, educating the buyers into these retail markets, and just focusing on those different channels, right? And just going forward with how do we better do that going forward, right? How do we keep tweaking that messaging piece and PR and education is a huge piece to any brand. But if you have a market or an industry that not a lot of people know about, then it makes it even a little bit more difficult. So it's just interesting on how we're going to keep tweaking things and how because hemp's been illegal for 80 years in the United States. There's other markets, Canada, Europe, that have had hemp legal a lot longer, and maybe their clients or their consumers a little bit more educated. So just building that here, it's exciting. Hopefully that answers your question.
So. Oh yeah.
I think it's interesting when we talk to our clients about the importance of working with the media. Sometimes we get some pushback because We'll say, well, we don't want to be necessarily top of mind if there's negative media, and there's so much uncertainty out there with all the different types of research that are coming in. So I'm wondering, when you put your hemp brand builder's hat on, how do you talk about that specific issue to the brands that you're dealing with?
Yeah, and it's kind of a scary thing to put yourself out there, right? It's almost like you're naked. Oh, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to portray my brand the wrong way? And it's just it comes from a place of fear sometimes. Maybe that we feel inadequate, or we feel that we're not conveying things the right way. So just to overcome those fears and to really show the transparency of your brand. I think that's a lot of people are looking for, the authenticity. Hey, I'm scared sitting here in front of you all a little bit. I'm a little nervous, right? It may not come off that way, but internally I'm a little nervous talking about this stuff and if I'm going to mess up. But I think in order to really truly build a transparent brand, we have to get out there and do those type of things.
Yeah, I agree.
100% agree. And Joe, you shared with us, that you have a pretty solid working relationship with some reporters. How did you start? How did you develop that trust? How did you develop that relationship with the media that you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, just trying to provide the best education as possible, with the best information that we have currently. So that information changes sometimes, pretty often with maybe it's a study, or maybe it's just the way we're talking about things then, and then we find out it's something wrong later on. So just wherever we are, the best information that we have to convey, I think to build up trust is the best way. And then to be also open to like, oh, wait a minute, that's not the best information now. Let's continue to evolve here, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Jumping in and talking to the media, maybe before the media asked to talk to you if you see something that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Right.
CBD and cannabis business owners they're always on the lookout for ways to strengthen their business, build their reputation, or they should be, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. We help clients, find the opportunity in every challenge, try to polish that reputation, and most importantly, prepare for the unexpected. No one wants to think about that, but putting that together, that's really building a resilient brand, which, as you might have guessed, is our third pillar of M&C Communications brand protection PR, building a resilient brand.
That's right. And there's no need to tell you this, as you already know that cannabis and CBD business owners are swamped with day-to-day activities. I mean, they just wear so many different hats. We encourage them to take a moment out of their day to share their stories, their background, maybe some of their motivation to enhance their brand reputation and trust. Have you experienced this in the brands that you have worked with, that you've had your hands on recently?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just taking a step outside the box and doing some different things, right? So you had talked about building up resiliency and having some kind of a plan on if something goes wrong, right? And, whenever you brought that up at NoCo, it just got my brain spinning like, oh, wow, there's things that we don't think about. And that was beautiful thing to really start thinking about and honing in on. Yeah, we've got some like little things that we would talk about, but like have some kind of a strategy there to where if we have something come up, how are we going to get this messaging out to everybody? Like, hey, this is what's going on, being as transparent and on top of things as possible, because in the land of social media and instant access, then we have to be able to respond whenever some kind of crisis comes or some kind of issue comes up that we need to respond to, and we need to share to our clients and to our consumers and just everybody in general. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's building up resiliency. You're going to have those pressures, you're going to have that stress that puts on you, but then be resilient and have some kind of response. I think it's an excellent idea.
It's so important. And I think before you even, you should think about what those crises are. Before you even do that, it's so important for you to establish yourself as an expert in the field, as a thought leader, so that when those challenges come, whether it's a crisis or an issue, that when people hear you speak, they already know you, they know where you're coming from. But there's a lot of people out there, they're a little bit hesitant in becoming what we would call a thought leader. how would you counsel them on that?
Oh, great question. Wow. It's just, you got to get outside of your comfort zone. And if you really, truly believe in something, and if you truly have passion for something, you got to get outside of your comfort zone and be able to articulate it. Some of the best, I think, just leaders and in general in history, not only knew their craft very well, but they knew how to articulate it to people and to sell people on that vision. So I would say just, hey, take that step, get outside your comfort zone, do podcasts. And, if people are giving you the opportunity, like I said, very grateful for this opportunity to get out in front of people, then take it and just see where it goes.
Yeah, it just being real and authentic says a lot. I think some people hesitate because they think, well, I don't know how smooth I'm going to be. You don't have to be super slick. You just have to be real and authentic. So that's good advice. You talked about education, and that intrigues me because I know a lot of hemp businesses are probably thinking, oh, come on, man, I have so much on my plate. Now what you're asking me to educate consumers, reporters, buyers, and retailers. But I think I see you doing this because that's helping you create that resilient brand, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. I mean, just talk a little bit about how important that is for these businesses to engage in that education process.
Yeah. To be able to articulate and to educate, what we already know is a hard thing. So, we already know that hemp and CBD products need to be tested for heavy metals, for pesticides, for all those mycotoxins and things of that nature. And to have we put a standard on our CBD products, and if we're working with a CBD brands, to have a QR code that will show transparency, right? So that QR code will, whenever you scan it, go to the amount of milligrams that is in the product. If we're going to go into CBD land or cannabinoids in general, then it will show the potency of that product, and that consumer is actually getting what's advertised on the label. And then also go through what we call a full panel COA, where it hits on those mycotoxins and those heavy metals and all those different type of things that can be very harmful, because hemp will absorb those heavy metals from the ground. It's good at remediating soils from conventional farmland. Whenever they're putting all these pesticides and herbicides and heavy metals and stuff into the ground, it's going to absorb that right back up. So, and then ultimately go into a product that we consume. So to be able to have a product that you can see the transparency behind it is pretty key.
It is key. And you know what I find interesting is you were talking about the QR codes. QR codes before COVID kind of went away, but it seems that during COVID, everybody started using them again. What a great way to fairly easily get your education information as well as your COA information out there, where it's not leaflets. It doesn't take up counter space in whoever you're distributing to. Because if you can put that QR code right on your product and tell people this is where you can get some additional information, it seems to make it pretty easy. So I think that's a great idea. I can't thank you enough, Joe, for all the insight that you gave us today. That was a great conversation.
Well, thank you all. Like I said, I'm so grateful to be here and to have met you at NoCo. And it was a great conversation there. It was a great conversation today. So appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Man, guys, that was great, wasn't it? I mean, I loved when he first started talking about when he went to the major outlets. He thought about the major distribution outlets. He thought about where are they, and how could he differentiate his Earthmost burgers. That was fantastic because it's not vegan, it's not all meat. They don't understand CBD that well, or they don't understand hemp that well, excuse me. And so he put that all together to develop this product that answered all those questions. That was very smart.
Yeah, and he wasn't bashful about trying to educate even the retailers or the buyers, right? And you think about even where they put it on the shelf, they might not just, I guess I'll put it here. No, so he was educating them on what the product will do for the consumer, where it should be located, just to help them along. So I thought it was great that he was willing to reach out and talk to people about the product to educate everybody along the process.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was interesting too to hear Joe talk about, what are the stories that we can tell to fill what we would call the trust bucket, right? So that in case something happens in the industry, you have that messaging in place ready to go, but you also have some goodwill built up that you've already put out there to your stakeholders. I thought that was a great part and nugget of this conversation today too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, we thank you again and thank our special guest, Joe Linne. He's with Hemp Brand Builders, for joining us on this Move the Stairs podcast. Thank you for being here and listening in. We hope you'll join us again for another episode of the Move the Stairs podcast.